Now let us quickly revise whatever we have discussed over here. So eyeball is divided into 3 layers. Fibrous coat, which includes the posterior 5/6, that is the sclera, and anterior 1/6, that is the cornea, which is actually convex in shape. It is transparent so that light can go through this, and it is avascular. There is no blood vessel inside this. The second layer is the vascular cord that involves the choroid, this area, and then it proceeds anteriorly to form the ciliary body over here. Then there is the iris. Then you have a lens over here as such, and then in the third layer, which is present only in this area, only the back side of the eye, that is called as the retina. Now let us understand certain other things here. We say that choroid is richly supplied with blood vessels. That is why it is written in the textbook that it is looking blue in nature. You know, veins, if there is a lot of veins and arteries over there, then the color will be either red or blue. That is why I have marked this itself with blue. I have shaded this with blue because just to show that there is a rich supply of blood vessels over there, and that is how it is written in the textbook, that since it is richly supplied with blood vessels, there will be the bluish color to the second vascular coat over here. So the choroid, ciliary body, and the iris will look blue in color. Now two things to remember here is that the lens is actually very much flexible. You can increase the diameter of lens by pulling it, and you can decrease the diameter by pushing it inside. So that is required for the purpose of seeing far object and near object. So you will have to quickly change the diameter of the lens whenever you are actually viewing a near object from a far object and a far object quickly from a near object. So these kind of changes have to be made, and this is called as the process of accommodation. So for that particular matter, if we analyze which structure is actually going to change the diameter, I will say it is the ciliary zonules, or this ligaments attached to the ciliary body from the lens. This is going to pull it, or you will compress it. That is how the whole diameter of the lens is changed. So that is one of the questions that they ask in the exam. So the diameter of lens is changed by the ligaments attached to the ciliary body. Now second thing is that there are muscles in the iris. Now if I just talk about the iris from this particular view, I am looking at the eyeball from this side. So I will just have a vision like this, isn't it? So I have the eyeball somewhat like this, and the iris is inside, and this is the pupil. Now in the iris I have two types of muscles. One type of muscle will be moving in this way. So this is the orientation of the muscle. See, from inside out radially. So you will call it as the radial muscle. So what will happen if they contract? If they contract, it will pull open the pupil, isn't it? So the size of pupil will be increased. Second thing is about the circular muscles. So there are other muscles which will be circling the pupil as such in the iris, and if they contract, what happens is the pupil will be constricted. So these are called as the circular muscle. The two types of muscle in the iris are radial muscles and circular muscles. As radial muscles contract, they increase the size of the pupil. As circular muscles contract, they will decrease the size of the pupil. So the question that they ask in the exam is, what is the structure which is responsible for changing the diameter of pupil? And the answer will be the muscle fibers of iris. So please remember these two questions. One is about the diameter of lens, and the other is about the diameter of pupil. So they keep on asking this question to you. Right, now you can see that there is this chamber over here, and there is a chamber over here. This is the space which is enclosed between the lens and the retina, and then there is another space between the cornea and the iris and the lens. So from this area, this is cornea and the lens and the retina, there are two chambers. Let us name these two chambers. So from the lens to the retina, this is called as the vitreous chamber. Right, it is called as the vitreous chamber. Now why is it called as vitreous chamber? Because you have something inside this. There is a transparent jelly like substance. There is a jelly like substance over here that is called as the vitreous humor. Right, so vitreous humor is a transparent jelly like substance. It is a very fluid like jelly, and if you see that, it will be very much jelly like, and that is called as vitreous humor. So that is why this chamber itself is called as vitreous chamber. Now what is the location of the vitreous chamber? How will you describe it? It is the chamber which is present between the lens and the retina. So enclosed between the lens and retina is the vitreous chamber. In the vitreous chamber you will have a fluid that is called as vitreous humor. It is transparent jelly like substance. Now the space which is enclosed between the sclera, that is cornea here, and the lens, this is called as the aqueous chamber. Aqueous chamber is between the cornea and the lens. See, there is an iris which is coming in between. Don't say it is from cornea to iris. No, it is actually extending from cornea behind the iris till the lens itself. Now the fluid that is present over there is called as the aqueous humor. Now this is not gel like, this is fluid like. Why is it fluid like? So that it can flow in this area. So this anterior most part of the eye, you will be having aqueous humor, and it is fluid like in nature. So it is transparent fluid like. Now let me tell you certain other things about the aqueous humor, which is more important as far as the questions that they ask in the practice tests are concerned. See, this aqueous humor, that fluid like substance which is transparent, is actually made by the ciliary body, right? So this ciliary body is going to produce aqueous humor, and it will just pour this aqueous humor, it will secrete it into this gap. So it is secreted into the gap between the iris and the ligaments and the lens, isn't it? So in this gap it is actually pouring it, it is secreting it, and there the aqueous humor comes, and it comes all the way to the anterior chamber or the aqueous chamber through the pupil. So it comes over here, it completely surrounds this area, it completely will be present over this area, and that will be coming out through the pupil, and it will be filling this area, that is the space in between the cornea and the iris, and also from between the iris and the lens. So in the whole area, this aqueous humor which is secreted by the ciliary body will be filling in this area. So in the aqueous chamber, the whole aqueous humor will be filled, and from this area it will go and it is taken away from this. It is actually removed from the eye through this angle. See, this is an angle between the cornea and iris. In between this angle, so we call it as the iridocorneal angle. Between the cornea and iris, you call it as iridocorneal angle. So through this, the aqueous humor is taken away, and that will be taken through some veins, and it is drained into the venous system of the body. So that is how the whole thing will be present over there. Since this is a fluid, it will exert a pressure on the eyeball. Just like you say that blood is flowing through your arteries and veins, it will actually exert a pressure, lateral pressure on the arteries. Now that is called as blood pressure. Likewise, this fluid is going to exert a pressure on the eyeball, and that is called by the name of intraocular pressure. Intra means within, ocular means within the eyeball, and intraocular pressure, P for pressure. So it is the pressure which is exerted by the aqueous humor on the eyeball. Once this pressure is there, it will be in a inflated position, and that is maintaining the shape of the eyeball. So this pressure, IOP, is maintained by the shape of the eyeball. And once this IOP increases, once you have an increase in the intraocular pressure, you will get a disease called as glaucoma. It will lead to a disease called as glaucoma. That is why whenever you are around 18 years of age, from then on, when you visit your ophthalmologist, they will keep you behind a machine, and they will blow some air into your eyes, and that is how they calculate the intraocular pressure. That is the latest method of calculation of intraocular pressure. That machine with which you are going to measure intraocular pressure, that is called as tonometer. Tonometer. Tonometer is the machine which is used for the purpose of measuring the intraocular pressure. And what is contributing to this? Aqueous humor is contributing to this, right? So much about the human eye. So I have left one point over here. See, this is a very thin mucous membrane, the line marked with red. It is a very thin mucous membrane which is covering the cornea as it is given in this diagram. See, that is called by the name of conjunctiva. So this is a very thin mucous membrane, and in some cases it can get inflamed, it can get infected, and that is called as conjunctivitis. It is very much common in the present scenario. Like children take a lot of holidays from school. Whenever they have this conjunctiva, they have a lot of problem with their eyes, and it will take some time till it gets resolved. So that is the applied aspects. So thus we come to the end of the basic discussion of the structure of eyeball. We will proceed to the next furthermore details.